Okay, so Optimist Avenue, aka Optimist Avenue, parentheses, The Fall. I wrote this song thinking about a lot of the crazy things that are happening in the world, and just kind of, it's basically based on the prospect, let there be peace in the fall and all time, which is what the chorus is. And yeah, I basically just wrote it about thinking about all the kind of crazy stuff that happens in the world, politically and non-politically. You know, we have police brutality, colonialism, constant genocide, constant denial of indigenous ways. It doesn't have to be an indigenous song. You know, it can be a song that's really just applied to any of the crazy things that happen in the world. And the idea of the song is for it to kind of be like a heartfelt ode to all that, and just saying that things are going to be okay as long as we just stay together and don't let things get to us. That's kind of the overall message of the song. So that's what the song's about.
I hear prisoners knocking.
Alright, so his origin. So he actually went through quite a bit of history. This is another song. If you haven't listened to my song See Your Face, check that out. That's on streaming as well, everywhere. And that was another song that my band Spell Singers played a huge role in. But Optimist Avenue would not be called what it is if it weren't for my band Spell Singers. Basically, it was the other song next to See Your Face that I brought to my band Spell Singers back right when we started as a band. So this would be like late 2021. It was one of those songs. So it was See Your Face and Optimist we played, and I originally, I originally wrote the chords in Germany, actually at my godmother's house in Kassel, which, fun fact, is where the band Milky Chance is from. But yeah, I wrote the chords in Germany back in 2018, and I just kind of had the chord progression because there was a guitar sitting there in her house, and I just kind of decided to play around with it. So I wrote the chords there. And at first, I actually called it The Phone. That was the original name for it. Kind of like how when Paul McCartney wrote Yesterday, he originally called it Scrambled Eggs, as kind of like a placeholder lyric, because you didn't know like what the original lyrics were going to be, or what the official lyrics were going to be, rather. So I kind of did a similar thing with Optimist. I originally called it The Phone, and the original chorus I had was like something along the lines of da-da-da on the phone with my love, basically. And I'm actually kind of thinking about releasing like a rough demo of Optimist, of like what it originally sounded like, kind of like where the idea came from, because I don't very often have like a very set idea of, or like an original version of a song the way I do with Optimist. So I think I'm gonna release that, and you guys can check it out. But anyway, that's just kind of something I'm thinking about right now, just talking about it. But that was the original idea, and then I just didn't really do anything with it for a while. And then when Spell Singers came along, at first I thought I was gonna write some stuff for the band, so I brought in my song See Your Face, which, see the song breakdown video for that song, check that song out. That has its own story, obviously. But I brought in See Your Face, and then I also kind of revived the chords for Optimist, or what wasn't Optimist yet, but what would become Optimist. And I basically, I went away, and my bandmate Isaiah is really good at writing unique song titles. Basically, like, very often, or at least like in the early days, he would make sure that there were no other songs with the same song title when he wrote a song title, which, you know, I don't know a lot of people who do that, but that I always thought that was really special. So when I went away and kind of wrote the chords wrote the lyrics for Optimist, that idea just kind of, as I was like sitting down to kind of think of like some actual words for the song for the first time since 2018, where I actually like spent time with the song, the title Optimist Avenue just kind of came to me as like an example of that, because I thought it was going to be a Spell Singer song, so I thought it was going to have to match kind of Isaiah's song titles with the uniqueness and stuff. And honestly, I think it's my best song title because of that. So I can't complain. I'm really proud of it. Yeah, so that's how I got Optimist Avenue, and then The Fall just kind of came to me partially, and this is something that a lot of people who know the song or listen to it don't necessarily know. The Fall is actually a house jack song, and the house jacks were kind of like my favorite band growing up, or at least one of my favorite bands growing up. They're an a cappella band from San Francisco, and I grew up I took beatbox lessons from their beatboxer. They were kind of a big influence for me growing up in terms of like developing the music taste that I have now and stuff. So The Fall was subconsciously meant as kind of an ode to one of their songs because they have a song called The Fall on an album, one of their albums. And of course, I also have that lyric in the chorus, The Fall. And I just thought it sounded cool to have Optimist Avenue and then in parentheses, The Fall. I just thought that was kind of a cool combo of titles. So The Fall really came from partially the house sax thing, but also partially because it was literally a, lyric in the chorus, obviously. So that's where that came from. So basically we played with Spell Singers for a while, and then after Spell Singers stopped doing it, I decided to take it on for my solo project, and the rest is history. So that's kind of where the song comes from, more or less. The lyrics of the song are very much inspired, kind of subconsciously by John Friedel, who is one of my favorite artists. He's a spoken word artist, native spoken word artist, and basically what he does is incorporate rock and spoken word on top of each other and kind of created his own genre with that, which not a lot of artists do, and he has a very unique sound. And so, the lyrics are divided between the verses, which are all spoken word, and then the chorus, which is the singing part. And when I wrote the verses, I think I was kind of subconsciously thinking about John Friedel. But I kind of want to create that, idea of having, a spoken word and singing combo song, which I've never done before. So that's really special as well with the lyrics. The message, is it corny or is it not? Okay, well, so this is interesting because, this song, it kind of has almost two different genres in a way, which is really interesting. I would say the first genre of the song, kind of from original conception and thought, and also the way that I first started playing it, after Spell Singers, the first time I started playing it with a band as my own, solo project, it sounded a lot more like this, and that is folk. It's just it is a folk song. It has a very folk mentality to it, kind of a folk vibe. So that would be the first genre, and then I would say secondly it would be kind of the pop rock singer songwriter vibe, which is kind of at the end of the day how the final record ended up being. Very pop rock, and also more the way the Spell Singers first played it. So when the first time I ever played it with the band, the way that it ended up sounding then. But it would say it kind of has two different worlds. So on one hand, you can see this as kind of a corny, sappy folk song that will just be a drunk sing-along for bars, which it was one time, because I played it at Hemflings with my friends Aiden Santa Cruz, Layla Diaz, and Maya Rowan when I first wrote this, when I first started, adopting the song for my solo project. They were the first band I played it with besides Spell Singers, and we played it at a bar. So, so that was kind of the vibe that it got when that happened. But at the same time, so it can either be seen as that, or it can be seen as more of kind of a more rough pop rock kind of grit song that has a little more grit behind it. And that's kind of how I wanted the final record to end up sounding. I didn't end up liking a lot of the folk vibe by kind of the end of the project with the original folk band that I played it with. So I kind of wanted the record to have more grit and pop rock. So, is the message corny or is it not corny? I mean, it's a very important message. And I think that it's a message that a lot of people can interpret as corny when you listen to it to a certain degree, and that's why I think it really depends on how you play the song too. So that's why I really wanted that grit behind it, because yes, it's a song about togetherness and peace and all that stuff that has been written about a lot, but I hope that this song can be interpreted as while it has a topic that is very much used over and over again, it's still a message that needs to be heard. And I think the way that I have the song sound now with that grit and kind of prop rock style, hopefully that can give it more of kind of a little bit of an oomph, and hopefully that can make it sound a little more unique versus not sounding so too much like a lot of those folk songs that we think about that maybe would be a little more quote-unquote corny, that have been written over and over again with the same type of message. So I'm trying to like bring that message into a song that could be interpreted as a folk song that has a little more of like a grit behind it. So, you know, I think it's an important message that can be interpreted as corny, but hopefully the way that the song ended up turning out will not make it sound as corny. So that would be my response to that question. Okay, so who's on the song? So this is really exciting. So this is the second song that I've recorded with other people on it, which is super exciting. Besides, I mean, Indian Eyes, I have my mom, but with actual real instrumentalists is what I'm saying. So it's the second song that I've done with actual real instrumentalists, and it's a really cool combination of people. So basically, I have Jack Helliso, Jed Wolter on the bass this time around. He's just doing the bass track. He was on my previous song, To Your Face, so he came back for this song. I have my new friend, Red Pratt, Michael Pratt, aka Red Pratt, who is now my bandmate in Spell Singers, the rhythm guitarist. Me and him are doing a lot of kind of 2-on-2 collabs as well, or I should say 1-on-1 collabs, excuse me. So he's really freaking incredible, great guitarist. So he's playing guitar on the track, both the guitar solo and rhythm guitar track is him. And then, last but not least, I have the two vocalists, because this song, so, you know, I mentioned that I played this. So after Spell Singers stopped doing it, I gave it to my friends Layla, Maya, and Aiden Santa Cruz. And they played it for a while. And Layla Diaz and Maya Rowan are two incredible local singer-songwriters here in Santa Cruz. And I have them on the track, and they originally did the harmonies and backup vocals with me when we first played it, so that's kind of what gave me the idea to have them on the song, because they just kind of came up with something that I really liked. Layla's a master singer, she's a master at harmonies, coming up with harmonies kind of on the spot, so I ended up just really liking what, like the harmony that she came up with, that she ended up adding for the track. And Maya Rowan, she also just came up with a really cool backup vocal that I ended up adding. So Layla's doing that basic harmony we hear, as well as the belting harmony, and then also, like the basic harmony and belting harmony is Layla, and Maya is doing the more kind of straight backup vocal. And both of their stuff is on Spotify. They're both incredible artists themselves in their own right. Layla has been a good friend for a while. I played in her band for a while. I met her through Cabrillo. She's a good friend, a good indigenous friend as well. And Maya is my longest friend I have to date. I met her back when I was in high school, and she actually played keys on my previous track, See Your Face. So if you listen to See Your Face, Maya's on keys, and this time I decided to showcase Maya's other side, which is her vocals, because she is mainly a keyboardist and vocalist. Those are her two main strengths. So See Your Face to play keys, and on this song she did vocals. And having these two incredible female vocalists on the song really gives the song a whole new vibe that honestly it would not have without them. And when I went in to record the song for the record, right away I knew that I needed Maya and Layla on the song, because they were kind of the bulk of what I kind of worked everything else around. Like I had Mike come in, I had Jack come in, but I knew that I was gonna have Layla and Maya. And I think giving the song those kind of like strong female vocals, and also it's the first song I've ever had like female vocalists on, which is super exciting. And I'm hoping to do more collabs with other female vocalists, as well as bringing Layla and Maya back and other stuff too. But I think having that female vocal in the song plays a big role in giving the song an extra flair that it would not have had otherwise. So yeah, those are the players. So the mix went through a lot of stages, but at the end of the day, I kind of decided to go with a very rough sound, which I always like to bring into my mixes. That's kind of a big part of my my mixing process. You know, I mix very unconventionally. I like to do things my way and kind of do things in a way that maybe other people would not necessarily do, and I think that shows in my mixes. So, you know, the way, like, for instance, the drums, to start, the way I record the drums is the way that I record my drum covers. So, one mic, I originally had a lot more EQ on it, and I actually ended up dimming it down in kind of the final stages. But I had the drums have that very, like, one mic feel, very kind of rough on the grit, just like one mic feel. And then the bass, guitar, Mike, being mainly a pop punk artist and alternative, like heavy alternative artist, like his genre is very heavy, so that's why having him on the song is perfect, because I really wanted to bring that heavy kind of rough grit into the song, and he was perfect for that. So I really had Mike do a very like rough kind of gritty guitar sound, and with distortion that sounds very much kind of like subconsciously like Boys Like Girls, the way that they sound specifically in their self-titled album, and they're like that's one of my favorite albums growing up, and they're a great band, and in their self-titled album they have a lot of the like 2006 pop punk kind of vibe, and that's kind of what Mike was going for with the guitar, where I kind of wanted him to go into that genre that he's used to playing and kind of do a little bit of an ode to artists like Boys Like Girls, Blink-182, Story So Far, one of his favorite bands, like those kind of bands that have that very kind of pop rock sound or like pop punk sound with the guitar. And the vocals are very much in the center of the mix. I did want a very vocal-centric mix at the end of the day. I ended up balancing it all kind of out a lot more than I had at first, but yeah, I really do want, like, you'll hear when the chorus hits, the vocals are quite a bit louder than the rest of the mix. And I really did want that to happen. That was very much on purpose. I think, you know, the fact that this is a very lyric-based song, which not all my songs are, you know, See Your Face, for instance, the other instrumental song that I've recorded so far, is very much a contrast to this, because it's not really about the lyrics, it's more about the instruments. So I put more of an emphasis on the instruments. For instance, like when the guitar solo hits on See Your Face, everything else drops out. You just hear the guitar really in the prominent backing, you know, in the prominent field. Whereas with Optimist, I really wanted to put a focus on the vocals. So when the chorus hits, which is the main vocal, like the vocal part of the song, you'll hear that everything else is a lot more in the background and the vocals kind of stand out, which is really something that I like to do. I always like to give my mixes kind of one theme, like, okay, what's the main sound in this that, like, listeners are going to be really focused on when they listen to it. So with Optimist, it's really the vocals. And I had a dual track on my vocals, and then Layla ended up doing a couple tracks of hers. Maya was the only one who did one track. So I like that feeling of me and Layla being very full, Maya kind of being the top, like, icing on the cake. But having all the vocals be very, very full and very present. And that really, like, kind of shifts the listener's attention to the vocals when they're listening to the song, which I think goes a long way in this too. And yeah, those are just a little bit of notes on the mix. But overall, I didn't want this to sound too polished. I wanted to have that grit and that rough sound that I think a lot of my mixes have, and that has kind of become a signature of my songs, especially when it comes to the instrumental songs. Just having that very, like, DIY staple on it. So I hope you guys enjoy the mix. It's supposed to be unique and it's supposed to be kind of cool. But yeah, it's, once again, like I said in my note before, you know, I'm trying to give, like, kind of a quote-unquote corny message, a very important message, kind of more of a grit, and kind of that pop rock rough sound. So that's kind of what I want to do with the mix. Yeah. So yeah, you know, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the song. It did come from a very personal place. Another really interesting kind of fun fact about the song, about the lyrics, is, you know, I have multiple songs that are raps and are kind of in the poetry, like, sector, but this is, like, one of the only songs that really is a poem first. I mean, you know, it is obviously a song. It was never like a poem by itself, but it works as a poem, whereas a lot of my other songs don't work as a poem in the same way that Optimist does. And the reason for that is because I really do have that spoken word feel. You know, the spoken word element really does make it a poem, because it is like 95%, 99% speaking. So, you know, the verse is really a poem. The only like actual melodic part of it is the chorus. So I think it's a really interesting kind of idea to have a song where the bulk of it still really is that poetry message, and the musical part of it is just this like repetitive prospect of let there be peace in the fallen all time, and that's really what the song focuses on, in terms of having that really be like an encore and kind of a sing-along. You know, it can work as a round, it can work as a lot of different things. There's just like one line that keeps getting repeated, and that's like the theme of the song. And the spoken word is really all kind of centered around that, and the main like complex lyrical part of the song is the spoken word part. So I think that's really special. Yeah, so I think it's really cool to have a song that has a spoken word element to it, and it's something I've never done before, and I'm really, really proud to finally release this song. So I hope you enjoy Optimist Avenue, The Fall.